There is a moment somewhere between attraction and obsession where a woman starts losing control of something she never meant to feel, and almost every man misses it completely. Not because it's hidden, because it doesn't look like what he expects. In fact, one of the clearest signs she's craving you is something she will deny, even to her closest friends, the moment they ask her about you. And the very last sign on this list, the one most men get completely backwards, looks exactly like rejection. It feels like she's pulling away. It feels like you're losing her. But it might be the opposite. By the end of this video, you'll know the difference between a woman who's simply being polite and a woman who's quietly, secretly, dangerously obsessed with you, and you'll never read her silence the wrong way again. Attraction is the easy part. Anyone can enjoy a conversation. Anyone can find someone good-looking. Anyone can agree to a second date. But craving is different. Craving is what happens when a woman can't fully explain why she keeps thinking about a man, why his name crosses her mind in the middle of an unrelated thought, why a 5-minute conversation with him replays in her head hours later while she's trying to fall asleep. And here's what almost nobody tells you. The deeper that craving goes, the quieter she usually becomes about it. Not distant, controlled. There's a difference, and learning to see it changes everything. Here's the problem. Most men are trained to look for enthusiasm, fast replies, constant compliments, obvious effort. So when a woman who's actually craving them starts acting more careful instead of more eager, they assume the opposite of what's true. They think she's cooling off, so they either chase harder or quietly check out themselves. And either move kills the exact thing that was building. Once you know what real craving actually looks like underneath the surface, you stop reacting to the wrong signals, and you start noticing what's actually happening in front of you. The first sign shows up before she ever says a word. Researcher Monica Moore spent years studying courtship behavior in public spaces, and one of her clearest findings was this. Interest shows up in glances long before it shows up in conversation. A woman who is mildly interested in you will look at you, then look away, then move on with her day. A woman who is craving you does something different. She studies you. She watches the way you hold a conversation with someone else. She notices how you react when things don't go your way. She catches herself watching your hands, your expressions, the small details she has no real reason to track, except that her attention has started organizing itself around you without her permission. If you've ever caught a woman's eyes on you for a half-second too long, then watched her look away too quickly to be casual, that wasn't an accident. That was her mind doing something it doesn't do for just anyone. Quick question before we go further. Has a woman in your life ever looked at you like she was trying to figure something out and then looked away the second you noticed? Drop a comment and tell me when it happened, because sign number 3 is going to explain exactly what was going on in her head in that moment. The second sign isn't about what she does when you're together. It's about what she does in the silence between conversations. Anthropologist Helen Fisher, who spent decades researching the neuroscience of romantic attraction, found that early-stage infatuation behaves almost like a craving in the addiction sense of the word. The brain seeks out the source of the feeling, even when the person experiencing it knows they probably shouldn't. That's why a woman who's craving you doesn't just wait for you to reach out. She creates small, almost invisible reasons to return to you. A reply to something you posted hours ago. A question she could have figured out herself but asked you instead. A message that, on paper, didn't need to be sent at all. It rarely looks like chasing. It looks like coincidence. But coincidence doesn't usually happen on a pattern, and if you pay attention, you'll notice hers does. And notice the timing. It's rarely random. It tends to happen right after you've gone quiet, right after your attention has drifted somewhere else for a while. That's when the small, almost invisible reach-outs start, because your absence is doing something your presence never could. This brings us back to that look I mentioned earlier, the one where she studies you and then glances away. Here's what's actually happening behind it. A woman who is casually interested in you goes along with things. She agrees, she follows your lead, she keeps the interaction smooth. But a woman who's genuinely craving you does the opposite. She tests you. Not aggressively, in small, almost playful ways. She'll disagree with something you said just to see how you handle it. She'll push back on an opinion, not because she needs to win, but because she needs information. Psychologist Robert Cialdini's research on influence makes one thing clear. People place far more value on things that are difficult to obtain than things that are freely given. A woman who senses you'll fold the moment she challenges you learns that you're easy to get, and easy rarely turns into obsession. But a woman who challenges you and finds you steady, calm, unshaken, walks away with a very different piece of information. This one doesn't bend just because I pushed. And that's the piece of information that keeps her coming back. If this is the kind of thing you wish someone had explained to you years ago, go ahead and subscribe now, because the next 3 signs are even harder to fake and even easier to miss if you're not paying attention. Now here's the sign she will absolutely deny if her friends ever ask her about you. When a woman is craving you, she starts opening up, but only partially. She'll tell you a story from her past, but leave out the part that actually explains why it still affects her. She'll say something a little too honest, then immediately laugh it off so it doesn't feel as heavy as it actually was. Psychologist Arthur Aaron, known for his research on closeness and self-disclosure, found that the speed and depth at which 2 people reveal personal information to each other directly predicts how emotionally close they become. A woman who's craving you is doing this instinctively, in small, calculated doses, watching closely to see what you do with what she gives you. And because admitting that to her friends would mean admitting how much she's actually invested, she'll downplay it completely if anyone asks. It's not a big deal, she'll say. We're just talking. Meanwhile, she's replaying your reaction in her head for the rest of the night. The 5th sign is one of the easiest to spot once you know what you're looking for. She remembers things. Not the big things. Anyone can remember a birthday. She remembers the small things. How you take your coffee. An offhand opinion you mentioned once in passing. A detail from a story you told that you'd honestly forgotten you'd even shared. That kind of recall doesn't happen by accident. The brain doesn't store random details about people it considers unimportant. It filters them out to save space. The fact that she's holding on to yours means something in her has already decided you're worth remembering, long before she said anything like that out loud. Here's a question worth sitting with. Has a woman ever brought up something you said weeks earlier, something you'd completely forgotten? That's not a small thing. That's her brain telling on her. The 6th sign confuses almost everyone because it runs opposite to what you'd expect. Most men assume that the more a woman likes them, the more obvious and enthusiastic she'll become. Sometimes that's true, but when craving turns into something deeper, the opposite often happens. She gets quieter, more careful with her words, slightly more self-aware in your presence. That's not boredom, and it's not disinterest. It's because deep attraction comes with a kind of internal risk she's managing in real time. The more she feels, the more there is to lose if it goes wrong, so she instinctively starts protecting herself by saying less instead of more. If you mistake that quiet for distance and pull back yourself, you'll likely never see what was actually building underneath it. The tell is in the contrast. Watch how she is with people she genuinely doesn't care about impressing, loose, loud, unfiltered. Then watch how she is with you. If the version of her around you is noticeably more composed, that composure is information, not indifference. And if you're recognizing any of this in someone specific right now, drop a comment with which sign hit the hardest. I read every single one, and it helps me know what to cover next. And now the final sign, the one that looks exactly like rejection, but very often isn't. When a woman is genuinely craving a man, she sometimes pulls away, not because her interest is fading, but because what she's feeling is more intense than she expected, and she needs space to process it without losing herself in it. You'll notice it as inconsistency, warm one day, distant the next. Most men panic here. They chase, they demand clarity. They ask, what's going on with us, at the exact moment she needs room to think. And that pressure does the opposite of what they want. It pushes her further away, because now she's not managing her own feelings anymore. She's managing yours too. But a man who stays steady through that inconsistency, who doesn't chase and doesn't disappear either, gives her something most men never do, the safety to come back on her own terms. And when a woman chooses to come back without being pulled back, that's not politeness. That's the clearest sign of all. It feels counterintuitive, almost backwards, but it holds up every time. The women who fight their own pull towards someone are usually the ones feeling it the hardest. Indifference doesn't require any internal conflict. Only real craving does. So here's what I want you to do. Think about a woman in your life who's shown even 2 or 3 of these 7 signs. Now ask yourself honestly, have you been reading her quiet moments as rejection when they might actually be the opposite? Drop your answer in the comments because most men won't understand any of this until it's already too late. And if this gave you a different way of seeing someone in your life, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.